before you even want to start a business, you want to be able to define your brand. And my goal with this, at the end of this podcast, is for everyone listening to be able to sit down by themselves and understand what your brand is. Because people don't fail in business because, they lack customers and all that. The reason I believe a lot of people fail is because they're using their resources to attract the wrong people. And using the resources to attract the wrong people all starts because they don't understand what your business is about. They don't have a brand. That's why people say branding is important, because branding, once you have and you understand and you define your brand, then you'll be able to use your limited resources as a small business owners to attract and market to the right people.
You're listening to the Black to Business Podcast, an educational podcast providing Black entrepreneurs with the tools and resources to start and grow their businesses. We chat with vetted Black entrepreneurs, thought leaders, and business owners as they provide tips and resources to help take your business to the next level. I'm your host, Monique T. Marshall. Today we're talking all about how to design a successful brand. So we've witnessed that when people think about starting a business, most times the first few steps include getting a logo, getting a website, and turning on the "We're Open for Business" sign. Or some have invested in this fancy website and logo and are stuck thinking, why am I not getting any customers? Why am I not attracting the right people? Well, in both scenarios, the missing piece is most likely that they haven't taken the time to lay the foundation of their brand. And y'all know we talk a lot about having a solid foundation. So what do I mean when I talk about a brand foundation? Well, I'm so glad you asked, because we've invited the perfect person to explain exactly what I mean. Joining us to lead this conversation is Eric Mbakop, founder and chief designer of A Swift Connect, a company focused on providing design services for small Black business owners. Today, we'll talk about the differences between branding and marketing and why marketing is not the first thing that you should be thinking about. We're also diving into how to define and understand your brand, how to lay the foundation of your brand, the importance of market research in designing your brand, and what a brand personality is and how to define yours. This episode is jam-packed with goodness, so let's dive in. Today's episode is sponsored by For Purpose, a 2-floor sports restaurant and event space located in Bed-Stuy, Brooklyn, where they offer delicious American and Caribbean cuisine. This unique Black-owned space offers on-site and off-site catering, only requiring a 7-day advance notice to the event. Their second-floor catering and event space come together as a package and includes in-house catering with food packages starting at just $85 per person. This package includes a buffet-style event menu that accommodates groups of 25 or more and consists of an appetizer, entree, dessert, and drink packages. This is the perfect option for birthday celebrations, graduation parties, dinners, baby showers, and Department of Education events. Event times are a max of 3 hours with an additional charge for each hour after. For Purpose's off-site catering options are perfect for corporate events, graduations, house parties, and more. Prior to booking, prices are subject to change, so email info@ivpurposebk.com to book your next special occasion. You can also learn more about For Purpose at ivpurposebk.com. Eric, welcome to the Black to Business Podcast. I'm excited about today's conversation, so welcome and thank you for being here today.
Thank you very much for having me.
Of course. So I like to have my guests start by telling my audience a little bit about you, who you are, what is it that you do in your business, and how did you get where you are today?
Thank you very much. So I'm excited as well to be right here to share my knowledge. My name is Eric Mbakop. I am originally from Cameroon, been in the US, especially Chicago, for the past 10 years. So I have had a business mindset for, I can't really remember how long. But so I began my entrepreneurship journey when I graduated from college in 2017. So I went to Roosevelt University in Chicago. So after I graduated, I didn't have a job. So I began trying different business ideas. So I began in 2018, I had a limo company. Then after that, I switched. I had a freelance platform, so mostly geared for tech freelancers, people who do like programming, they can connect with businesses. So I ran that freelance platform for like 2 to 3 years. And in 2019, and the fall of 2019, I launched a Swift Connect. So my current platform, which is a design platform. So I've been doing that right now for close to 3 years right now. So it's been a very interesting journey, So, yeah, it's been very interesting, and I am not one of the people that will come here and tell you that entrepreneurship is easy, is for the faint of heart, but it's fun, right? So it's a lifestyle for me, right? It's not something I see as a burden. It's just a lifestyle. I live it. I breathe it every day, right? So that's really my background. And so I love playing soccer. I am an avid soccer fan, and I also love a lot of Afrobeats, hip hop, so just the whole culture, right? So the whole Black culture, right? So everything from Africa to the US, so just interested in the culture as a whole, right? So the intersection of hip hop and Afrobeat. So that's also something I love a lot. And yeah, that's it about me.
Love it. And I love that you mentioned that entrepreneurship and business is a lifestyle. I can totally relate to that. So yes, I think a lot of people can relate in that, it's just something that just feels like it's a part of you versus a job, feeling like it's a job. So I love that you mentioned that. And then, so you mentioned that you started a Swift Connect because today's conversation is about designing your business for success. And I know at Swift Connect, that's what you do, branding, design. So we're going to dive into that. But I first want to talk about, what made you start and get into, what inspired you to start at Swift Connect and get into branding and design?
So yeah, it's a good question. So I began with, as I told you, programming. So I was running a freelance platform just for programmers. So kind of freelance / agency. So I was working with a lot of programmers. So I forgot to mention this. So my background is in Actuarial Science. And I also did a few courses in graphic design when I was in college. But I began a programming platform. And why I began that was because it was hot, right? Everybody was building websites, So there was a high demand, right? The money was there, right? But then I began that and it was going well at the beginning, but at a certain point after like 6 months, 7 months, I wasn't really feeling it no more, right? So I wasn't really excited about it no more. So it wasn't something that I was waking up and happy to do. It felt like a burden to me, right? So I'm like, this is not really, the clients, the whole programming languages and all that stuff, I kind of felt that if I'm going to do something long term, I want to do something that is fun, right? Something I'm excited about doing and something that, I can make money at the same time while doing it. So I decided, and I was looking and I was like, design is pretty big as well, right? So people judge people based on what they see. People judge companies. People, visual stuff kind of influences people's decisions on what they want to do. And I was good at design, right? I had a background in design as well, and I love design. And I'm like, let me go a little bit into design, right? Because I found out that for the big businesses, they already knew whole brand design was, all the whole stuff, right? They already had their guidelines in place, the identity in place, all that stuff. But I realized talking with small business owners, and I myself back then, I didn't really know much about design, right? So I didn't really understood what was branding. I didn't really understand what the importance of design in my business. I just thought that because everyone is having a logo, I should have a logo because everyone is having a brand. And back then I didn't understand what a brand was, right? Because I was thinking a brand, when you just talk branding, you just think a brand is your logo. But I didn't understand all that stuff. And then I realized that a lot of small business owners don't understand that, especially Black business owners. Well, I don't know, I can't say it especially, but those I mostly speak with was Black business owners. And a lot of people in my circle did not understand that. So a need began, I began giving courses to my friends who were Black business owners about branding, right? I began telling them, helping them figure out their brand, educate them on that. And they were liking it. And I'm like, oh, this is something fun. Right. So, this might lead me up to something. So that's how a Swift Connect began, right? A Swift Connect began just as a design platform, so to help people with their design and also with their branding needs. So that's how the whole idea began with the Swift Connect.
Awesome. And I think it's important to mention that because, as you said before, a lot of business owners, they only think about, it's just a logo, but branding is more than a logo. And as you mentioned, people relate to and they judge businesses based on what they see. So that's why I think it's important for us to really dive into this topic, because I'm sure people who are listening can relate to what you said, designing your business for success. So first, let's start off with talking about the importance of branding. And what is branding and why do you feel that it's important for businesses in particular?
Definitely. And so before I even speak about this, I don't want this to be like an education, like a university course, right? So I'm going to really explain this in layman terms in such a way that you can actually relate to it, right? Because another issue is that people speak about branding and it kind of scares some people away. Like, you're like, sure, branding? I need a brand guide, brand this. And people have this idea that it costs a lot of money to do all that stuff, right? And all the big companies. So mindset is everything, right? When you approach something with that, it's not that complicated. It's easy to understand and easy to apply, right? So, branding literally it's your business, right? So I shall go a little bit backwards, right? So there is this philosopher and psychologist. His name is called Carl Jung. And he came out with the idea that people, are attracted to kind of identities, right? So if you look like different people, like everybody is not meant to love everybody, right? So he came out like people are attracted and people become friends with different people based on an identity that they relate to, right? And so that's where the whole idea of branding comes into play. Because, before people start a business, you think that you want to start a business to make money. It's important because money, cash flow, that's like fuel for your business that keeps your business running. But the mistake that a lot of people do is like they go into business to be for everybody. But you starting a business, you are not meant to be for everybody. And that's why I mentioned this psychologist called Carl Jung. He said that people identify with different people based on like personality traits that they have in common. And so if you take that idea into business, right? Because like a business literally is just you, the owner of a business. That's like your idea representing who you are, right? So when you start a business, you want to first sit down and think, who am I? Why am I starting this business? Who do I want this business to serve? Who do I want to relate with? You don't want to go into business to be for everybody. And so when you have the idea that you're going to start your business, knowing who you're going to serve, knowing who you want to attract based upon what your business stands for, then that's an easy way to kind of lay the foundation of your brand. So, if you see what I mean. So, this same psychologist, he came out with what we call the 12 brand archetypes. So, he came out with 12 brand archetypes, and it's very famously used by a lot of successful companies nowadays, right? And literally, when you go through these 12 brand archetypes, you literally see that it's like personality traits of human beings. Because we sometimes as human beings, when we start a business, we love to separate the business from the person. But no, the business is just an extension of your idea. And your idea and who you are based on that business is going to attract people with similar traits as your business. So let me lay down the 12 brand archetypes. I will repeat that just so, because it's very important, right? Because before you even want to start a business, you want to be able to define your brand. And my goal with this, at the end of this podcast, is for everyone listening to be able to sit down by themselves and understand what your brand is. Because people don't fail in business because, they lack customers and all that. The reason I believe a lot of people fail is because they're using their resources to attract the wrong people. And using the resources to attract the wrong people all starts because they don't understand what your business is about. They don't have a brand. That's why people say branding is important, because branding, once you have and you understand and you define your brand, then you'll be able to use your limited resources as a small business owners to attract and market to the right people. You realize I spoke about marketing later because marketing comes way later. You first of all need to lay down the foundation of your brand. So going back to the 12 brand archetypes. So based off these 12 brand archetypes, you should be able to put your brand or yourself as a business into one of these archetypes. And, I don't want to feel like this is a box, like you locking yourself in a box that I have to fit in these 12 brand archetypes. This is more like a guide, right? At the end of the day, your business is you and you decide what you want to do. I'm not out here to come and lock people in boxes that to have a brand, you need to be in these 12 brand archetypes. But it's very helpful to use this as a guide to define your brand. So the 12 brand archetype, the first, the innocent. The second, the everyman. The third, the hero. The fourth, the rebel. The fifth, the explorer. The sixth, the creator. The seventh, the ruler. The eighth, the magician. The ninth, the lover. The 10th, the caregiver. The 11th, the jester. The 12th, the sage. So, let's start with the first one, the innocent. So when we say the innocent, you want to think about something, a brand that gives happiness, optimism, safety, youth, romance. If you think about Coca-Cola or Coke or Nintendo Wii, when you think about a Coke product, when you drink Coke on a hot summer day, a cold Coke, how do you feel? You feel kind of happy, right?
Refreshed, yes.
Yeah, you feel kind of refreshed. So Coke fall in that innocent, that archetype of the innocent. So the innocent, if you consider yourself an innocent brand or the innocent, that means you exhibit happiness, right? Goodness, optimism. So when people relate with your product, they want to feel that sense of happiness, of optimism. And Coke is a good example that falls in that category. So
Well,
when we, yeah.
so when you're saying that the innocent is that now should people for people who are listening, should their brand so all are these like layers of the brand, or it's like it should encompass all of these things, all of these 12 layers? Or I know you mentioned that it's a guide, or it's like because someone is like, okay, I got to think about this, or all these things, are these all things that they should include?
So you can, these are the intersection, right? You can include different parts of it and
Mm-hmm.
consider yourself. But ideally, right, literal ideally, right, your brand shouldn't be like when I tell people, right, the first step is your brand shouldn't be for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
When you want to create, so your brand, your business, you want to think about who are those I don't serve, who are those who are not going to like me, but who are those who I serve, and who are those who are going to like me. You know what I mean? So the issue is, especially for a small business, right? You have so many limited resources that you want to narrow down your target audience to the
Right.
smallest target audience you can. Because once you narrow down your target audience to the smallest target audience, then you can bombard that audience with as many, like marketing, different marketing channels, content creation, educational creation, all that stuff, you know. But to
Yeah.
answer your question, you are not, I mean, for those listening, I'm not saying you need to fit into any of this category and box yourself. Like I said, the innocent, like you just stay like, I'm an innocent, my brand is the innocent, I will stay there. No, you can read through all these archetypes and kind of say, okay, I might be an innocent and an everyman, right? I might be a rebel and a hero, right? Based on what I feel like that kind of, and that's what my brand encompasses. So yeah, so you can be as many as you want, but ideally you want to narrow it down to just one archetype.
Got it.
And so that's just for the innocent. And so there's the everyman, 6 connections, belongings, So when you think about Home Depot, Home Depot is for like the everyman, right? So connections. When you go to Home Depot or you go to eBay, you're going on there for a transaction to buy stuff that you might use for your house, or buy clothing on eBay and all that stuff. So the everyman kind of 6 connection brings people together, right? So Home Depot is like a marketplace where they have their own products, but at the same time they have products from other companies, that are at Home Depot. So, you can put yourself at the everyman. You go to the hero, right? The hero, courageous, bold, inspirational. When you think about Nike, when you wear a Nike shoe, you feel kind of bold, you feel kind of inspirational, So literally, these different archetypes that you put yourself in, you want to feel like how do I want people to feel when they relate with my brand, and based off that, you can decide on which archetype you want to put yourself in, right? But again, this is just a guide, right? This is not something that I want the listeners to box themselves in. Just use this as a guide to kind of start thinking about your brand and what your brand is. And from there, you can be able to lay different foundations of your brand.
Got it. Love it. So, okay. So now that we have the 12 archetypes, and one of the things I think that you mentioned is so important is that marketing, once you have that branding foundation, is something that we talk about a lot on the podcast, is really honing in on building that business foundation and having that solid foundation. So you mentioned once you have that branding foundation down packed, then you're able to hone in on your target market and then market to those people. So you kind of mentioned the differences, but I want to just make it plain, the differences between branding and marketing, and why, as you said, marketing comes later.
Definitely. And so I would just, for me to better explain why marketing comes later, I would first of all go through the process of a brand identity, right?
Okay.
So a brand, because I need to explain how a brand identity, when people speak about brand identity, for the listeners to understand, and when they understand, they'll understand why marketing comes later.
Yeah, I
So,
think that's important because that's also one of my questions later. So it's so great that you touch on it is identifying their brand identity. So
right. So when, people talk about brand identity, that all revolves around your identity as a person first. When I spoke first about the 12 archetypes, that's all about personalities. So your identity as a person, what your brand encompasses. And why I say it relates to your identity as a person is because I advise people, don't just do stuff. Don't go into business just because you want to make money. It might be fun in the short run, but in the long run, it might become difficult because you won't be excited no more. But when you go into business because of something that you identify with, that's your personality, that becomes a lifestyle. And
right.
successful business people who have been in business for a long time, is a lifestyle. You know, you will see somebody, they'll be like on Saturdays, they're not going out, they're working on their business. You'll be like, dude, are you crazy? But it's because it's a lifestyle, that's who they are. So, and branding, it's very important in that aspect because you want to create a brand that's a reflection of who you are as a person. So, the brand identity, there are 7 steps we go through for a brand identity. So we first start with a clear brand purpose and positioning. So the whole purpose and positioning comes to the fact of what I was saying, right? What it comes with the whole 12 archetypes. That's where the positioning and purpose comes into place. So what's your purpose as a brand? What do you want to accomplish? What do you want people? What's the experience you want people, to relate with, or to feel when they interact with your brand, right? So that's the first. The second is market research. Before you even go into starting a company or creating your brand, you want to do some market research about what's going on in the market. What do people want? Is there a market for what I need? Right? If there's a market for what you need, then you can start creating strategies to get into that market. If there's not a market for what you need, then you might come in as a disruptor and create strategies to disrupt the market and make people need your services, right? So it's important, right? Because people go, and another reason why some people fail in business, right? And it's also the foundations, right? You gotta start from the basics before you go upwards. And marketing is not a basic. Marketing is like an advanced level, right? So you want to lay down your foundations first. Market research. If you know that as a business starting, you know that there's a need for what you need, then you know how to create strategies, to get in the market and get customers because they need your products or services. But if you know that there is not a need for what you are selling, then you have to use a different strategy. So the mistake a lot of people do is there might not be need for what they are selling, or the market might be too saturated. But the marketing strategy they use to attract those customers, is they use the marketing strategy maybe of a product or service that is new in the market and that people might need, or that is not saturated, right? So that's important to do your market research, because once you do your market research, then you have an idea of how to market your products. That's the second part. The third part is the brand personality. Again, that goes to your own personality, right? Who are you? Or if you want to make it easy, you can look at a celebrity and say, if there's a celebrity that is to match my brand personality, who will it be? Right? and you kind of look at your characteristics just to kind of understand
I
if
have an
you
idea.
have an idea, you know what I mean? So that's important. Now, the fourth, you want to create a logo, right? Because the logo literally is a visual representation of your company and your brand, right? So you want to create a logo, and after you create a logo, you want to the colors of the logo need to match your brand personality, right? So colors, this is stuff like color. So this is what you call color psychology, right? So people relate differently to different colors, right? Some of us, we are not aware of that, but subconsciously we do, right? When you look at Facebook, it's kind of blue. That kind of feels like calm, if you have
Right.
like maybe red and yellow, like that kind of feels energy, right? If you look at
Right.
citrus products. Then after the color, the sixth part is professional typography, right? You really want your brand to use type fonts that are in alignment with who your company is, right? So we did branding for an artist recently, and he wants his platform. He does a lot of futuristic stuff, right? Stuff like that happens, stuff that people don't really relate to right now, but that might happen in the future, right? And so when we're doing his fonts or typography, we had to use futuristic fonts because that's what his brand is all about, right? As an artist, he speaks about stuff that will happen in the future. So as his brand and his logo, he wants those fonts to look futuristic. So for the brand identity, the first six parts for a brand identity, you have realized we haven't spoken about marketing.
Right. It's
Yeah.
still last.
Yeah. So, so you want to know that those first six parts, that's like the foundation. Once you have that, then we can start talking about marketing now. That's where the seventh part comes into play, right? So I want people to think about marketing as this. Marketing will drive revenue in the short term. That's what gets people to buy your products. But branding, that's what will keep customers coming back. Okay. So branding keeps customers coming back and also keeps your employees, invested in your company. Marketing doesn't do that, right? You might have marketing and you might bring in a lot of money on a monthly basis, but still you might have a high turnover rate from your employees. Okay. But branding keeps your employees invested in the company and engaged, right? So that's where, because brand is literally your personality of your business, right? If you have a company culture that the personality is friendly, then your employees will enjoy it, right? They'll enjoy working for that company, But if you have a very toxic culture that you just focus on marketing, bringing money and people are working and people burn out, then you won't have, your employees won't be invested in the company no more. And when your employees are not invested, people start leaving because your business, as much as you want customers to buy your products, you also want to have happy employees because those are those who run your business. And if, because of your branding, you don't have your brand is not clear enough, and your employees start leaving your company, or your customers don't have a good experience with your company because your culture or your branding is not solid enough, then in the long run, you won't be successful as a company, right?
Right.
So that's why I want people to think about marketing versus branding, right? So marketing, it's important. You need money to run your company, but branding keeps your company running in the long run, And just to create a good example about this, right? And this example was said by Seth Godin. So he's a very famous brand expert and marketer. Let's say Nike was to start a hotel chain. Okay.
Okay.
If you go to a hotel owned by Nike, do you think you know what you might expect from that hotel?
I think when people associate, it's the brand. So people are like, it's going to be nice. It's probably going to be sports related.
Exactly. Because they have a solid brand. But let's go the opposite route. Let's say Hilton goes into shoes and they start, let's say, or no, let's even stay with the Hilton still, right? Or let's say Hilton starts a hotel, but they removed your name from the Hilton. And you go into the building and it's a hotel, but you don't know it's a Hilton or a Marriott. Will you know which hotel it is? Or will you know what experience to expect?
I think they're not really.
Yeah, and that's because so far as they're very successful companies, right? They make a lot of money, but Nike is a very successful brand, right? Same with Apple. If Apple does anything today, people will know what to expect.
Right.
Exactly, just because you know Apple as a brand. So that's why branding is important, right? So I want, as a small business owner, you know, branding is more of the long term. It takes time to build a brand. That's another thing, right? It's not like, oh, my brand will be successful today. No, it takes time. This is like a whole process. But the more you're consistent in it, eventually, your brand will become very strong, and the experience, your customers have with your brand, they will be able to tell what they can expect in the future if you release a new product. So yeah.
Love that. And I think that one of the things that you mentioned that was very important, and just to you brought this full circle, is that especially as small business owners, they have limited resources. So the faster we hone in on this, the more we're able to better use our resources. But I really want to ask you, what is the benefit of hiring a professional and outsourcing these parts of the process
So yeah, so a lot of
versus
small,
DIY?
definitely. And I learned that the hard way, as literally as a small business owner, your job, your number one job, what you're really there to do is to keep your company afloat. And to keep your company afloat, you need to bring in revenue. To bring in revenue, you need to be talking with your customers, your potential customers, talking with different partners, creating different relationships. That's how you bring in revenue to run your business, right? And as small business owners, if you spend most of your time doing these designs, right? Because that's not your expertise. It's a different story if you're a designer. But even then, as a designer, at a certain point when you're running a business, you will start outsourcing that to other people to do, right? So you want to have the whole idea of design, like this whole branding stuff I just spoke about. You want to know this because that's your company. You want to know it, understand it. But when it comes to application, you want to outsource it, right? And I'm not saying I'm not saying you should do it, but I'm just saying, think about this. If you spend at the beginning, like doing these designs yourself, you might use Canvas, you might use all these tech platforms, or you might do it yourself. It would take you still some time to do it. Let's say you spend 3 to 4 hours doing your social media graphics, and 3 to 4 hours, that's if you're good. Let's say spend 3 to 4 hours a week doing your social media graphics for the following week on the content you're going to post. But let's say you take those 3 to 4 hours still, because you were trying to save, let's say maybe $100 to $200 if you outsource that to somebody. But let's say you take those 3 to 4 hours, and you spend that time networking with people, talking to your potential customers, going to events, selling your products, to different people. And let's say out of that, let's say even if you don't get a sale or something, but you might get somebody an email, or you might get somebody who might be interested, and down the line you can nurture that relationship to be a potential customer, right? So the whole idea I'm talking about opportunity cost. So if I want to think about is it worth it to spend my time doing this myself while I can outsource this task to an expert to do it, and I can spend my time doing what I know how to do best? Okay? Because a lot of small business owners, we spend a lot of time, and I myself, when I say we, I myself, I used to do this, right? Because we don't have the
Mm-hmm.
budget. We want to do everything by ourselves. But no,
Yep.
that's not what we know we are here to do, right? Our main job is to be the face of the business and bring in revenue. The other small tasks, we have to outsource that because we have so much limited time, right, as business owners. So you want to maximize your time, and you might think that you might be saving money by doing that yourself, but in the long run, you realize that you're actually losing money.
Right.
Okay, because first thing, graphics is very important, right? Later, as I mentioned at the beginning of this, people judge your business based on how your business look. And in this new
Mm-hmm.
age we are, right? Your business, how does your business look? Through your graphics. What is on your social media, your website, any communication you send out. And if you are not an expert or you are not good at design, there is no point for you trying to do it yourself and doing a shitty job and putting it out there than hiring an expert who will do it for you and make the
Yep.
job look good. Because at the end of the day, when someone comes to your website or look at your Facebook or Instagram page, if your graphics look shitty, some people might decide not to do business with you. So you know what I mean? So in the short term, you might be winning, but in the long term, you are losing, right? So for me, it's not just worth it, right? No, you might spend your time doing something else that you're good at doing.
I always think of, and that's so true because I think about when I first started Black to Business, it was one of those situations. But sometimes how you end up paying more and you end up still having to pay for it as your brand elevates. So it's like you said, it's important to do it first or initially, especially if you can afford to. And then also, I often think about even when my logo was different and my brand was totally different. I kind of always had this feeling in the back of my head is like people kind of knew and then they didn't want to maybe work with me because it didn't look as professional as it could. So those are some things to keep in mind, I think.
Definitely. And you are definitely right. It's just stuff we do not know, right? But the more you grow and the more you become experienced, you realize that it's not just worth it, right? Because time and a lot of small business owners, right? Nowadays, a lot of people, right? They have regular jobs that they do, to pay their bills while waiting for their business to kick in. Or they have other stuff that they do, right, on a daily basis. So, your most valuable currency as a business owner is your time.
Right,
And you need to know how to manage your time like your time is money. If you think about time as every second is $1, then if you spend like close to 4 hours doing something, you're losing a lot of money, right? Because you might as well be doing something else that might bring more value to your business than,
right,
learning how to do and trying to do something you're not good at, right? But I want to say this though, you want to understand every aspect that is going on in your business, okay? Because some people will say, okay, I'm going to outsource everything, so I don't need to know how that works. No, you want to understand everything, right? So you want to keep learning. Like this whole brand guideline, literally you want to understand like the branding surrounding your business. You want to understand it. Then you can pass that knowledge and you can be able to tell the expert on how you want them to do the work for you. It's important to understand it, right? Because as business owners, when we say outsource, some of us think that outsource means that we do not have anything to do with that. No, you want to understand it. You want to know how to do it, even if, it's just by, how to do it by just reading a book on how to do it. but then, you want to outsource the work itself, the application, to somebody else.
Yes, I definitely agree. And I always think about someone say, if you don't spend money, you're going to spend time. So you're going to spend that time doing it.
Right. So definitely.
Yes. So speaking of all the things you've learned, designing a brand for success, someone is listening, and I want to talk about touch on tips for building that brand loyalty, and just speaking to the fact that it's just not all about pricing, because some people are going to think my prices are too high.
Definitely. And, and I probably want to let people know that this takes time, right? So branding takes time, So, and I think people are so focused on marketing, because marketing, like, it's kind of something you can see immediate results with marketing, but branding takes time. And as I said, branding, that's what will keep your business going. But marketing is good for the short term. So, tips on how to build brand loyalty, right? That also goes out to the personality, right? Let's say, instead of thinking about tips of how to build brand loyalty, let's say, what are some tips of how you want people, to know you as a business owner? Let's say you as a business owner, people come to you and talk to you. After talking to you, what do you want people to remember you for? Right? Those are the kind of questions you want to ask yourself, because it's all a mindset game. This is all a mindset game, because if you focus too much on brand loyalty, you will miss that the brand is you as a person, or you are just a reflection of your brand, because that's your idea that comes from you. That's like your baby, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you want to think about tips for building brand loyalty, right? So you want to create, if maybe, let's say, you want to do, like, because you talk about pricing, but you want to think about value. You do not want to focus too much on pricing, right? As I said, everybody is not for everybody, right? You don't want to be in the market for lowering your price because the other company is lowering the price. Your
Right.
main job is to provide value to your customers. That's how you build brand loyalty, right? And how do you build value? You build value by being an expert at what you do. Okay.
Well said.
This is not joke, right? This is not
Right.
a quick hustle. That's why I said that when you outsource, true, you want to outsource to people, to experts who will do the job, but you as a business owner, you want to know the ins and out of everything you're outsourcing. It's very important, because when you open your mouth and speak to a potential customer, that kind of tells who you are and what your brand is, right? So to be able to build brand loyalty, you want to be really good at what you do. So you want to constantly learn, and you want to create an experience surrounding your brand, right? So when people come to your website, how do you want them to feel? What images do you want them to see? What are the colors do you want to use? Right? We spoke about color psychology, right? Because people might not know that, but subconsciously, when people see different colors, they feel a certain way based on different colors. So how do you build the brand loyalty? You really want to invest in your graphics, your visual representation, your messaging, your content marketing. So your content marketing, so what you put out there, you want to put content that will educate, right? When you educate people, eventually they will trust you as a brand, and that's what you call brand loyalty. But if you keep selling and selling, like every post you post on social media is about buy this, buy this, buy this. No, people don't want to be sold to. People want to be educated on what they don't know. Eventually, and when they don't know that, they would trust you as a brand. Then they would trust that if they do business with you, you can solve their problems. So position yourself out there to be a problem solver. So that's how you build brand loyalty.
I love that. And I love that goes into, like you said, this is not a quick cash, like this is not a quick cash game. It's like, this takes time. And again, that loyalty for people to trust you is going to take that time. So,
Exactly.
Yeah, and one of the things I wanted to touch on is because you kind of touched on it before, is a lot of people when they think about branding, they think about, of course, that logo and that website. So, in your experience, what are some of the key? Because those are the first things that people think about as you've gone and said otherwise, and how they should think about these things down the line. But in your experience, I know that you work with business owners and helping them create logos and websites. What are some of those key components of a good logo and a website that you would say?
Okay, so experience of a good logo, but I just forgot to add this about the brand loyalty. Then I'll answer this question. So building brand loyalty, you also want to partner with people in your industry who are known, what kind of experts in there, right? Because at the beginning, when you're starting, nobody knows you, right? And by partnering with these experts, that kind of creates exposure for your business. And when that creates exposure for your business, then people will want to do business with you. And when they come to your website or when they come to your social media page, based on the content they see, that will kind of decide if they want to be loyal to your brand or not. Then that immediately brings me to the components of a good logo. Because the first thing, like when people see your logo is a visual representation of your company. Okay. And, people always just think a logo, they'll just go do anything. No, you want to put some thought into creating your logo, right? And I just want to make sure your logo is not your brand, because people always think a logo is a brand. No, a logo is an extension of a brand, but your logo is not your brand, right? And so tips for having a good logo, you want to keep it simple. Simplicity is always golden, okay? You don't want to, complicate your logo too much. Just have a simple logo. Think about Nike, think about Apple, think about Facebook. What do all those companies have in common? Just a simple logo, right? Something just simple, because there's beauty in simplicity, okay? The second tip you want to make sure your logo is flexible. What I mean by flexible is, and you want to test this, right? Can your logo be printed on a billboard and be also printed on a business card? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Because, some people have logos that can only be printed on business cards, but not on billboards. Okay, so you want to make sure your logo is flexible enough to be used in different size formats. It can be used on business cards, it can be used on t-shirts, and it should be in different colors, right? You not just want to have a logo in one color, because let's say you want to put your logo on the t-shirt based on the color of the t-shirt. Maybe if your logo is a color that doesn't match with the t-shirt, your logo won't be seen properly, right? So you want to have different colors for your logo as well. The third stuff, you want your logo to be timeless. And that's where simplicity comes into play. Because when you build a company, you want to think that 20 years from now, how will my logo look? Because your logo will not look the same it is today.
Mm-hmm.
It won't look the same as it is 20 years from now. It's impossible, right? If it's the same, then it's a problem. Because your brand evolves, your logo evolves. Your logo is part of your brand. So that means that since your logo is part of your brand, and your brand will definitely evolve as you grow, so your logo should also evolve, right? So, and when I mean by timeless, I don't mean it doesn't have to be complicated. If you look at the Coke logo, Coca-Cola as a brand, when you look at their logo evolution over the years, it's slightly different, but it stays the same at its core.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, it's slightly different. Maybe they change the fonts a little bit, the positioning, but it stays the same at its core. And so that's stuff that, a designer, when they are about to design your logo, they will be able to think about this stuff for you, right? If you don't have the expert, if you're not an expert in that field. So when designing a logo, you want to make sure that it's timeless, right? And you can even go further as being like, can you ask the designer, can you do like 3 different versions of my logo? Let's say 3 different iterations that shows how my logo will grow, just to see if you like it, right? So those are the different tips, you should be thinking about when designing a logo. And last but not the least, you want to use correct typography. It's important to
Yes.
use the correct typography, right?
Right.
You don't just want to use any type font. Put some thought into that. Okay. Look how, and sometimes people, there are a lot of default type fonts that you can use, like sans serifs, all that. But some people, want to use stuff out of the ordinary. Again, simplicity is key, and just use the correct type font that you feel that will be a representation of your business and your brand.
Yes, agreed. And then also, of course, the good components for a website.
Definitely. So a website, so simplicity again. You know what I mean? And I mention a lot about simplicity. I tell everybody this, there's beauty in simplicity, right? Like I always give this example, like as recently I've been giving these examples to people. If you look at the Coinbase ad at the Super Bowl, it was a very simple ad, but that's one of the most performing ads in the history of history of mankind, actually, right? Simple but powerful, because there's power in simplicity. For a website, your website is like your business location nowadays, right? So, like people go to your address on the web, they follow
Right.
your website. And for a small business starting out, and I guess most of those listening, you are starting out, you want your website to be as simple as possible. Do not complicate your website. When I mean do not complicate, do not add a lot of unnecessary stuff to your website. Because sometimes what happens, and I myself, when I talk with clients, what will happen is they will go like somebody maybe wants to build a business similar to Amazon, for example. They would take the Amazon website and send it to me and be like, I want to design a website similar to Amazon, include this, include that, include that, include that. And what I always say is this: you are not Amazon. You are starting out. Okay. If you go and look at the original website of Amazon, it didn't look like how it is right now. Okay. So you adding all this stuff on your website, that is not necessary, because, when people come to your website, you want to make it as easy as possible for them to achieve what they want to achieve. Okay. If they want to buy a product, just make it as easy as possible for them to buy the product. Don't have like 10 pages that they have to go through just to buy your product. Okay. Or they have to read a lot just to buy your product. Okay. So make it as simple as possible. User experience should be on point. So by user experience, the experience that people have on your website, and that goes into the experience of your brand, and that's how you build brand loyalty. Okay. So you want your user experience, you want to think about when someone comes to my website, they come to the home page. From the home page, where would they go next? Do you want them to see the about page, or do you want them to immediately buy the product? So you want to map out the experience, and you want the experience to be as straightforward as possible, because we live in a generation where people don't have so much time. Okay.
Right.
So another example, right, on the creation of a Swift Connect. Like when I used to go back, if you've been to Fiverr before, Fiverr is a freelance platform.
Yes.
Yeah, they have like so many options, right? And in this new generation, a lot of people get confused with many options, right? It's like when you go to a restaurant and you look at the menu, you have so many food options, you get confused on what to choose. But if you just have like a few options, it's easy for people to make a decision. So that's the similar with your website, right? You want to give people very few options so that it's easy for them to make a decision. Another tip for your website, third, you want to use words that people are going to search for. It's very important. Okay. Before, so this is about the copy, about the content on your website. So before you type any stuff on your website, think about when someone goes to Google, what would they search for? Let's say, for example, you sell like soap or something, like black soap or something. You want to make sure that you want to type black soap near me on Google. I want to see what is going to pop up. Based on what pops up, you want to put that content on your website just to make your website to appear higher on the search engines. It's very important, right? Because if you put words on your website that people don't really search for, it will be difficult for people to find your website when they search for it. So you want to do some research on that. You want your website to be mobile friendly as well. It's important, right? I don't know, and this will be like a golden rule. Like a lot of people, they build websites nowadays, some of it is not mobile friendly. Like most people spend time on their phones than even on their laptops or computers. I know a lot of people who don't have a computer. All what they do is they use their phone. So you want your website to be mobile friendly, because when you do like we post a piece of content on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, and you have a call to action for people to visit your website, most people use those apps on your phone, and they will click on that on your website using your phone. And if your website is not mobile friendly, that's bad, right? Because you're losing potential customers.
Yeah, that's true.
And even the mobile friend is important because Google and search engines, not just Google, even Bing, they rank higher websites that are mobile friendly than those that are not. Okay. Because you want to think like your website is your address, and there are a lot of different websites. So you want to make it as easy as possible for people to find you on the net. So once your website is mobile friendly, that increases your rankings with web search engines. You want to have attractive call to actions, right? Let's say maybe someone comes to your website and you want them to put your email on your website. You want to get your emails, right? You want to design the call to action to be attractive, right? Don't just have something plain on the like, subscribe to my email list, all that stuff. No, you want to design it to look really good, something that somebody will be willing to click on it, right? Again, people react based on what they see. If it's too plain and so like not designed properly, some people might not even subscribe to your email list just based off that. But if it's designed properly and you have a good call to action, then that might increase your chances of people subscribing to your email list. And that's just an example, but on every corner of your website, you want to have an attractive call to action.
I love that. Attractive call to action.
Another stuff is you want to use personal images. Okay. Like, people can see fake images from those who are personal, right? That sometimes when you're starting out, you have no choice but to use, like custom images you can buy from the internet, like Pixelbay and all that stuff. But if you can, use a personal image. By personal image, I mean use your image, use images of people you work with, of your customers, of real people, right, that you actually interact with. Because believe it or not, right, consumers can tell when an image is like a custom image and a personal image, right? So if you can, try as much as possible to use personal images. And another reason to use personal images is that it builds some bonding between you and your customers, right? Because if like people on the web, everything they see is like just fake stuff, right? Always advertising, they go to websites, they see like fake images, all that stuff. If they come to your website, what they see is they actually see you on your website. They see like your employees doing some stuff on your website. They'll be like, oh, cool. This looks like a business actually. I mean, it just builds a bonding between you and your customers. So
It looks
if
real,
yeah, it looks real, right? It doesn't look
right?
fake. Yeah, so if you can use personal images, it's very important. And you want your website to be optimized, right? So by optimized, I mean that still goes to my point of do not add a lot of unnecessary stuff on your website, right? Because the more images you have on your website, just the more content, it causes your pages to load a little bit slowly, right? The worst thing you want is you had a good marketing campaign like a Facebook ad or something, and people are clicking to go to your website, to visit your website, and it takes like 30 seconds to load. People are very impatient nowadays, right?
Right.
So some
Like click
people
it
will
off.
not wait. Yeah, some people will not wait all that time and just leave. So you want to make sure that, and you want to test it and make sure that your website loads quickly, so it's optimized to load. And the last thing, but it's not the least important, actually important. Try this after you have designed your website. Go 10 feet away and look at your website on like a monitor. If you can tell just by looking what your website does, that's good. Ask somebody, maybe a friend, to come 10 feet away from the monitor and they can look at your website. If they can look at your website 10 feet away and know what it does, you know, that's good. Because you want to make the messaging clear as possible. You don't want people to have to go through your website to figure out what you do. You want to put
Mm-hmm.
clear messaging on your home page, on your landing page. So when people come, they know exactly what you do. So these are some of the tips that when building a website, you should be aware of.
That's a good tip. Like 1050. I'm going to try that. I have never done that. So I'm going to try that one.
Yep,
That's a good
that's
one. Yeah.
really, yeah, I tried that myself. I'm like, oh, I need to do some work. Yep.
I'm like, yeah, I believe mine looks right. So yes, I love that. Awesome advice. So someone is listening and they're like, okay, I got it. Now they're in a position where they've already started their branding and they're knowing that they're needing to change some things. So what advice would you give to those who are looking to redesign their brand?
So I would just say, go back to these 12 archetypes I mentioned, and I will give a link to the 12 archetypes, where the listeners can be able to visit that link and read about it.
Okay.
Go back to it, and rethink about what is the experience, I want people to have when they interact with my company. Define your personality. What is your brand? What does your brand stand for? Who are those you want to do business with? And more importantly, who are those you do not want to do business with? Okay, I'm telling you, a lot of people, as I mentioned at the beginning, we focus on building a business to be for everybody. Okay, but that's not the purpose. Especially when you're starting out, your business you should have a narrow target audience as possible. So go back again and rethink about what kind of message do you want to relay to people when they interact with your brand? What colors do you want to use? And based off this, these are the foundations, that once you have answered these questions, define your personality, who you are, what does your brand stand for? Who do you want to do business with? Who do you want to target? Once you have defined all of this, then you will have a solid foundation, of going forward to doing a rebrand of your business.
Love that. And so this has been so valuable. So I want to talk about, end it off with the things that you are doing to solve these problems for people who are looking to design a successful brand at the Swift Connect. So if you could just talk about some of the ways that you all are assisting business owners with designing their brands and some of the services that you offer, and just kind of walk us through your process.
So literally my process is mostly about most of the things I spoke in this interview, right? And so so Swift Connect, we design platform, we offer all types of designs from graphics to UX, UI design, so we work mostly with small businesses and specifically Black businesses, So we kind of, so when you come to us, let's say for design work, right? Our process is we first understand your problem. Okay. We don't just prescribe solutions to you without understanding your problem, right? Because when you go to a doctor, the doctor doesn't just give you medicine without understanding what you're sick about. Even if you tell him that I have a headache, he will tell you that he'll ask you a few questions to make sure, do you have a headache or you have something else?
Right.
So we kind of understand what's your problem, right? So we go through a series of questions. We kind of understand what your brand is. A few people we spoke with, they don't really understand your brand. So we help you figure out what your brand is, right? We ask you these questions. We go through these 12 brand archetypes, to better understand what your brand is. And when we understand what your brand is, then we can start designing graphics, for your company. So, but most importantly, we kind of first understand your problems before we start, telling you, what we can do for you or not. And most of the times, right? So as small business owners, a lot of people don't just know what they don't know. So for example, recently we had a client, he wanted to redesign their website. And after discussing with them, we realized that the issue was not the website redesign, right? The issue was more like the graphic content on the social media pages. So instead of redesigning the website, we invested more into creating better graphics for the social media pages, right? Because, and that's the stuff, right? We do not, as small business owners, we are mindful of resources are very limited. So we want to make sure we spend money on the right resources, right? Again, this is a whole process, right? Some people want to redesign their website, do everything all at once, Sometimes we would tell you, okay, it's not advisable to just have a whole rebranding of your kit, right? So maybe you should just rebrand just one aspect, maybe of your logo, that's it. And then we can work on the other stuff later on. But so that's our process when we talk with our clients. Okay. So we really go deep down to understand what your problems are in order to provide better solutions. And then once we have understood that, we have laid down what your brand is, we have a solid brand foundation, then we can go ahead to design graphics, design your website based upon what your brand stands for.
I love that. And I love the fact that you all were able to do that for that business, because it also speaks to, one, it's just not a money grab for you, but then two, it's that this is a very personalized experience that businesses get. And then also it's like business isn't one size fits all. Like it just varies based on the business. So love that you shared that story.
Definitely.
And so, Eric, I want to ask you now, I know that you manage and help other businesses. So how do you, as a business owner yourself, stay focused and stay organized? Some of your favorite tools and resources that have really helped you in your entrepreneurial journey?
So I would say this, the key, outsource. That's what I do. Right, and I mentioned that outsource, I learned that the hard way. Okay, at the beginning, I was trying to do everything myself, but I learned that the hard way, right? So for those who are just starting, you might think that I'm just starting, I don't have the money. How do I do that? No, it's possible, right? If there's a will, there's a way. Okay. So how I stay organized is, so at the Swift Connect, I'm more of the design strategist. So I kind of sit down with the clients. We kind of go through the design strategy, like the branding, how to create understand your brand. And then we have designers who actually do the work of designing the graphics that the client wants. So I spend most of my days, as I mentioned before, you need to look for customers, create relationships. So that's why I spend most of my time, like connecting with people, and outsourcing the work that I think that I'm not good at. So I just outsource other people. They do it. I pay them, but that money I pay, that saves me more time to do other stuff, and I use
Right.
also Calendly. It's a very great tool, so
Yes.
to just, if you cannot hire a personal assistant to manage your schedule, you can use Calendly, if you want to have book, like say when I book a call, book a time for this interview, I just use Calendly, so
Mm-hmm.
that's very helpful as well. I use that, another tool I use, MailChimp, for my email campaigns, it's automated, it's like 9.99 a month. You can use that for your email campaigns, and you can hire somebody to manage that for you as well. So, and I try not to spend time on things that don't make me happy. You know what
Right.
I mean? So, I mentioned the whole business stuff, right? But I tell you, this is a lifestyle. Okay. I live, I breathe it every day, right? And the mindset is everything. It's really your mindset. Literally, when you look at the problem and you only see problems, you will feel defeated. When you look at the problem and you see solutions, you will find a solution to it, right? So I am very mindful of what I spend my time, of what I consume. Okay, I don't consume a lot of negativity because that kind of wears me down. I try to stay
Mm-hmm.
positive,
Mm-hmm.
I try to stay around positive people. That's important on managing your time. Because trust me, if you spend your time consuming a lot of negative content or around negative people, eventually that will get into you. And when that gets into you, your mind is a little bit messed up. Then the time you will have used to work on your business, you would kind of just be using that to you wouldn't just feel like doing anything. You know what I mean? So it's important to surround yourself with positive people who shall uplift you, and people or events or content that is negative, you kind of filter that and put that away, you know? So you want to have your mind straight, and I work out a lot. So, working out
Mm-hmm.
has helped me, understand pain, because being a business owner is painful. Right, this is not an easy task. It's, those who stay in business are those who are able to manage pain and withstand pain, because this is a painful process, right?
Mm-hmm.
And when you work out, you kind of train your brain to withstand pain, right? Because the more weight you lift, the more miles you run, the more pain you put on your body, and the more your brain becomes stronger to withstand pain. So that helps you to be able to run your business smoothly and save time as well. So yeah, if for resources I use, I'm more of a mindset person. Those are really my resources I use. You
That's
know,
good though.
yeah, like literally, you know, I mostly meditate a lot, work out, be stay around positive people. Those are my resources, because once my mind is right, then I can be able to do a lot of stuff more rapidly than if my mind is not focused, it's not working properly.
Exactly. And those are great resources. I love MailChimp. We use MailChimp as well. And I love Calendly too. And that's Black owned as well. So
Yep.
I will be sure to put those resources in the show notes. Eric, this has been so amazing. I'm pretty sure people are going to want to know how can they connect with you, find you online, and support you. So please share.
Definitely. So I'm on LinkedIn. So on LinkedIn, my name is Eric Backup. So, just the spelling of my name, Eric Backup. You can find me on LinkedIn. And I'm on Instagram as well. On Instagram is Swift underscore connect. So it's Swift underscore connect on Instagram. And on Facebook, it's Swift Connect. So just type is Swift Connect on Facebook, one word, and you'll be able to find me on Facebook. And on LinkedIn, I'm very active on LinkedIn, so another resource, I might say it's to small business owners. you want to be active on social media, right? And the
Yep.
social media you're active on, that depends on you. But my preference to me is LinkedIn. Okay. It's it's easy to connect with power players in your industry on LinkedIn as opposed to any other social media. Okay. So, be active on LinkedIn, network with people. It's not always about selling or making money. That's not what this is about. It's about actually getting to know people. Like it's about, like, even if you contact me today, it wouldn't be about me selling you my design services. True, I want to design stuff for you, but even if you do not want to design or do design business with me, we can still be friends, network, learn from each other, and just elevate each other, right? Especially in the Black community, we need to be able to, and that's why I love what you're doing, right? Black to business,
Thank you.
creating this platform for Black people to learn a lot of different stuff about business, right? So we want to be able to be united, connect with each other, and learn from each other. And eventually doing business with each other is just a byproduct of our relationship, but not like the main, but not like the main, like that's why I want to connect with you. So yeah.
I love that. And such a powerful message. Love it. And we do have to continue to support one another. And I'm pretty sure people are going to be connecting with you online. Eric, this has been so amazing. So thank you so much for being on the show. We appreciate you and all the work that you're doing.
Thank you so much. My pleasure.
Another amazing episode. I took away so much from this conversation, and particularly I love that Eric stressed the importance of having a solid brand foundation and designing a solid brand, because the clearer you are on who you focus on, the better you're able to serve them, but also the better you're able to make use of your time and resources. Think about it. As small business owners, we have to use our resources to the max. So I'm so glad that Eric stressed that. And another thing is that the 12 archetypes of a brand, I love that, the personality to think about. And I definitely love the exercise of standing 10 feet away from your website and getting a bird's eye view and thinking, would someone understand what my business is about from this view? So much value in this conversation. Be sure to check out blacktobusiness.com/92 for complete show notes and resources mentioned. And also share this episode with a friend. And thank you so much for listening, and see you next week. Same time, same place.